Welcome to the Sonoma County Library video channel. We post new videos every week, so bookmark, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Hi everyone, my name is Miss Kim from the Sonoma County Library, and welcome to Book Read-Alouds at Home. Get comfortable and get ready to listen to a chapter book a week read out loud to you. Feel free to check out the ebook from our library website, sonomalibrary.org, so you can follow along, or just relax, close your eyes, and listen. Now, grab your pillow, grab your blanket, get comfortable. Cinder, Chapter 4. Peony slugged Cinder in the shoulder, nearly pushing her into a pile of bald android treads. How could you wait so long to tell me? You've only been home for like 4 hours? I know, I'm sorry, said Cinder, rubbing her shoulder. There wasn't a good time, and I didn't want Audrey to know. I don't want her taking advantage of it. Who cares what Mom thinks? I want to take advantage of this. Good stars, the prince in your booth. I can't believe I wasn't there. Why wasn't I there? You were busy being fitted in silk and brocade. Ugh. Peony kicked a broken headlight out of her path. You should have calmed me. I would have been there in 2 seconds, unfinished ball gown and all. Ugh. I hate you. It's official. I hate you. Are you going to see him again? I mean, you'll have to, right? I might be able to stop hating you if you promise to bring me with you. All right, deal. Found one! Aiko called from 10 yards ahead. Her floodlight targeted the body of a rusted hover, entrenching the piles of debris behind it in shadows. So, what's he like? Peony said, keeping pace as Cinder hurried towards the earthbound vehicle, as if being near her was now on par with being near His Imperial Highness himself. I don't know, said Cinder, unlatching the vehicle's hood and lifting it up onto the prop rod. Oh, good. It hasn't been scavenged. Aiko scooted out of Cinder's way. He was polite enough not to point out the giant grease stain on her forehead. Peony gasped. You didn't! What? I'm a mechanic. I get dirty. If he wanted to see me all gussied up, he should have come ahead. Aiko, I could use some light right here. Aiko tilted her head forward, illuminating the engine compartment. On Cinder's other side, Peony clucked her tongue. Maybe he thought it was a mole? That makes me feel so much better. Cinder pulled a pair of pliers from her bag. The night sky was clear, and though the lights from the city blocked out any stars, the sharp crescent moon lurked near the horizon, and a sleazy eye squinting through the haze. Is he as handsome in real life as he looks on the net screens? Yes, said Aiko, even more handsome, and awfully tall. Everyone's tall to you, Peony leaned against the front bumper, arms folded. I want to hear Cinder's opinion. Cinder stopped poking the pliers around the engine as the memory of his easy smile rushed into her. Though Prince Kai had long been one of Peony's favorite topics, she was probably in every one of his net fan groups. Cinder had never imagined that she might actually share the admiration. In fact, she'd always thought Peony's celebrity crush was a little silly, a little pre-adolescent. Prince Kai, this, Prince Kai, that. An impossible fantasy. But now, something in Cinder's face must have said enough, because Peony suddenly shrieked and lunged at her, wrapping her arms around Cinder's waist and hopping up and down. I knew it! You like him too! I can't believe you actually met him! It's not fair! Did I mention how much I hate you? Yes, I know, said Cinder, prying Peony's arms off her. Now go be giddy somewhere else. I'm trying to work. Peony made a face and skipped away, twirling amid the piles of junk. What else? Tell me everything! What did he say? What did he do? Nothing, said Cinder. He just asked me to fix his android. She peeled away the spider webs from what had once been the hover's solar generator, but was now little more than a plastic shell. A cloud of dust kicked up into her face and she pulled away, coughing. Ratchet! Aiko plucked the ratchet from her torso and handed it to Cinder. What kind of android is it? Asked Peony. Cinder pried the generator from the compartment with a grunt and set it on the ground beside the hover. An old one. Tutor 8.6, said Aiko. Older than me, and he said he would come back to the market next weekend to pick it up. Peony kicked a rusted oil can out of the path before bending over the engine. The news said that the market's going to be shut down next week because of the outbreak. Oh, I hadn't heard that. Cinder wiped her hands on her pants, peering down into the engine's lower compartment. I guess we'll have to drop it off at the palace then. Yes! Peony jiggled in place. We'll go together and you can introduce me and aha! Cinder beamed. Mag belt. Peony cupped her cheek in her palm, raising her voice. And then he'll recognize me at the ball and I'll dance with him and Pearl will be livid. She laughed as if angering her older sister were life's greatest accomplishments. If the android's even done before the ball, Cinder selected a wrench from the tool belt slung around her hips. She didn't want to inform Peony that Prince Kai probably wouldn't be the one signing for deliveries at the palace. Peony whisked her hand through the air. Well, or whatever. I want to go to the ball, said Aiko, gazing up at the horizon. It's prejudice not to let androids attend. Petition the government, then. I'm sure Peony will be happy to take your cause direct to the prince himself. Cinder clamped onto Aiko's spherical head and forced her to aim the light back into the hood. Now hold still. I've just about got this end detached. Cinder stuck the wrench to Aiko, then pried the mag belt from its bracket, letting it clatter to the ground below. One side down, one to go. She led the other way around the hover, clearing a path through the garbage so Aiko's treads wouldn't get stuck. Peony followed and climbed on top of the hover trunk, folding her legs beneath her. You know, some people say he's going to be looking for a bride at the ball. A bride? Said Aiko. How romantic! Cinder lowered herself onto the side behind the hover's back bumper and took a small flashlight from her tool belt. Hand me that wrench again. Didn't you hear me? A bride, Cinder, as in a princess. As in not going to happen. He's only, 19? Tucking the flashlight between her teeth, Cinder took the wrench from Aiko. The bolts in the back had less rust on them, better protected from the overhanging trunk, and only took a few quick turns to loosen. 18 and a half, said Peony. And it's true, all the gossip links are saying so. Cinder grunted. I would marry Prince Kai in a heartbeat. Me too, said Aiko. Cinder spit out the flashlight and shuffled onto the fourth corner. You and every girl in the Commonwealth. Like you wouldn't, said Peony. Cinder didn't answer as she loosened the final bolt, gripping the mag belt. It released and fell to the ground with a clang. There we go. She slid out from beneath the car and tucked the wrench and flashlight into her calf compartment before standing. See any other hovers worth scavenging while we're here? Pulling the mag belt out from beneath the hover, she folded it at its hinges, forming a less cumbersome metal rod. I did see something over there. Aiko swished the light around the stacks. Not sure what model. Great, lead the way. Cinder nudged the android with the belt. Aiko took off, muttering about being stuck in junkyards while Audrey was all clean and cozy. Besides, said Peony, hopping off the trunk, the rumor is that he's looking for a bride at the ball is much better than what the other rumors are saying. Let me guess. Prince Kai is actually a Martian. Or no. He had an illegitimate child with an escort, didn't he? Escort droids can have children? No. Peony huffed, blowing a curl off her brow. Well, this is even worse. They say there's been talk of him marrying... She dropped her voice to a harsh whisper. Queen Lavanna! Queen... Cinder froze and clamped a gloved hand over her mouth, glancing around as if someone could be lurking in the piles of garbage listening. She pulled her hand away but kept her voice down. Honestly, Peony, those tabloids are going to rot your brain. I don't want to believe it either, but they're all saying it. That's why the Queen's witchy ambassador has been staying at the palace, so she can secure an alliance. It's all very political. I don't think so. Prince Kai would never marry her. You don't know that. But she did know. Cinder may not know much about intergalactic politics, but she knew Prince Kai would be a fool to marry Queen Levana. The lingering moon caught Cinder's attention, and a shock of goosebumps covered her arms. The moon had always given her a sense of paranoia, like the people who lived up there could be watching her, and if she stared for too long, she might draw their attention. Superstitious nonsense, but then everything about lunars was eerie and superstitious. Lunars were a society that had evolved from an Earth and Moon colony centuries ago, but they weren't human anymore. People said lunars could alter a person's brain, make you see things you shouldn't, feel things you shouldn't, and do things you didn't want to do. Their unnatural power had made them a greedy and violent race, and Queen Levana was the worst of all of them. They said she knew when people were talking about her, even thousands of miles away, even down on Earth. They said she murdered her older sister, Queen Shinari, so she could take the throne from her. They said she had her own husband killed too, so she would be free to make a more advantageous match. They said she had forced her stepdaughter to mutilate her own face because at the sweet age of 13, she had become more beautiful than the jealous queen could stand. They say she killed her niece, her only threat to the throne. Princess Celine had only been 3 years old when a fire caught her in her nursery, killing her and her nanny. Some conspiracy theorists thought the princess had survived and was still alive somewhere, waiting for the right time to reclaim her crown and end Levana's rule of tyranny. But Cinder knew it was only desperation that fueled these rumors. After all, they found traces of the child's flesh in the ashes. "Here!" Aiko raised her hand and knocked on the slab of metal jutting from a huge mound of chunk, startling Cinder. She shoved the thoughts aside. Prince Kai would never marry that witch. He could never marry a lunar. Cinder pushed a few rusted aerosol cans and an old mattress aside before she was able to clearly make out the hover's nose. Good eye! Together they shuffled enough junk out of the way so that the full front of the vehicle could be seen. "I've never seen one like this," Cinder said, running a hand over the pitted chrome insignia. "It's hideous," said Peony with a sneer. "What an awful color!" "It must be really old." Cinder found the latch and pulled open the hood. She drew back, blinking at the mess of metal and plastic that greeted her. Really old. She squinted into the front corner of the engine, but the undercarriage hid the mag belt clamps from view. "Huh. Point the light over here, would you?" Cinder lowered herself into the dirt. She tightened her ponytail before squirming under the hover, shoving aside the jumble of old parts that had been left to rust in the weeds beneath it. "Stars," she muttered when she was able to look into its belly. Aiko's light filtered down from above through cables and wires, ducts and manifolds, nuts and bolts. "This thing is ancient." "It is in a junkyard," said Peony. "I'm serious. I've never seen anything like it." Cinder ran a hand along the rubber cable. The light flashed back and forth as Aiko's sensors scanned the engine from above. "Any useful parts?" "Good question." Cinder's vision tinted blue as she connected to her netlink. "Could you read me the VIN by the windshield?" She searched the number as Peony read it to her and had the hover's blueprints downloaded in minutes, the display creating an overlaid image on top of the engine above her. "Seems to be fairly intact," she murmured, running her fingertips along a cluster of wires over her head. She followed them with her eyes, tilting her head to trace the path from hoses to pulleys to axles, trying to decipher how it all fit together, how it all worked. "This is so cool." "I'm bored," said Peony. Sighing, Cinder searched for the mag belt on the blueprint, but a green error message flashed in her vision. She tried just magnet, and then just belt, finally receiving a hit. The blueprint lit up a rubber band wrapped around a series of gears encapsulated by a metal cover, something called a timing belt? Frowning, Cinder reached up and felt for the bolts and lock washers that attached the cover to the engine block. She thought timing belts hadn't been used since internal combustion had been obsolete. Gasping, she craned her neck to the side. In the deep shadows beneath the vehicle, she could make out something round beside her, connected to the bars overhead. A wheel! It's not a hover! It's a car! A gasoline car. Seriously? Said Peony. I thought real cars were supposed to be, I don't know, classy. Indignation flared in Cinder's chest. It has character, she said, feeling for the tire's treads. So, said Aiko a second later, does this mean we can't use any of its parts? Ignoring her, Cinder hungrily scanned the blueprints before her. Oil pan, fuel injectors, exhaust pipes. It's from the second era. Fascinating! Not, said Peony. She suddenly screeched, launching herself back from the car. Cinder started so fast she whacked her head on the front suspension. Peony, what? A rat just came out of the window. A big, hairy, fat one. Oh, gross. Groaning, Cinder settled her head back into the dirt, massaging her forehead. That made 2 head injuries in one day. At that rate, she was going to have to buy a new control panel, too. It must have been nesting in the upholstery. We probably scared it. We scared it? Peony's voice carried a shudder with it. Can we go now, please? Cinder sighed. Fine. Dismissing the blueprint, she squirmed out from beneath the car, accepting Aiko's offered grippers to stand. I thought all the surviving gasoline cars were in museums, she said, brushing the cobwebs from her hair. I'm not sure I would label it a survivor, said Aiko, her sensor darkening with disgust. It looks more like a rotting pumpkin. Cinder shut the hood with a bang, sending an impressive dust cloud over the android. What was that about having a fantastic imagination? With some attention and a good cleaning, it could be restored to its former glory. She caressed the hood. The car's dome-shaped body was a yellow-orange shade that looked sickly under Aiko's light, a color that no one in modern times would choose, but with the antique style of the vehicle, it bordered on charming. Rust was creeping up from the hollow beneath the shattered headlights, arching along the dented fender. One of the back windows was missing, but the seats were intact, albeit mildew-covered and a little torn, but probably home to more than just rodents. The steering wheel and dash seemed to have suffered only minor damage over the years. Maybe it could be our escape car. Peony peered into the passenger side window. Escape from what? Audrey! New Beijing! We could get out of the Commonwealth together! We could go to Europe! Cinder rounded the driver's side and scrubbed the dirt from the window with her glove. On the floor inside, 3 petals winked up at her. Though hovers were all controlled by computer, she had read enough about old technology to know what a clutch was and even had a basic idea of how to operate one. This hunk of metal wouldn't get us to the city limits, said Peony. Stepping back, Cinder dusted off her hands. They were probably right. Maybe this wasn't a fantasy vehicle. Maybe it wasn't their key to salvation. But somehow, someday, she would leave New Beijing. She would find a place where no one knew who she was or what she was. Plus, we couldn't afford the gasoline, continued Aiko. We could trade in your new foot and still not be able to afford enough fuel to get out of here. Plus, the pollution fines. Plus, I'm not getting into this thing. There's probably decades worth of rat droppings under those seats. Peony cringed. Ew. Cinder laughed. All right, I get it. I won't make you guys push the car home. Whew, you had me worried, said Peony. She smiled because she hadn't really been worried and flipped her hair off her shoulder. Cinder's eye caught something. A dark spot below Peony's collarbone, visible above the collar of her shirt. Hold still, she said, reaching forward. Peony did the opposite, panicking and swiping at phantoms on her chest. What? What is it? A bug? A spider? I said hold still! Cinder grabbed Peony by the wrist, swiped at the spot, and froze. Dropping Peony's arm, she stumbled back. What? What is it? Peony tugged on her shirt, trying to see, but then spotted another spot on the back of her hand. She looked up at Cinder, blood draining from her face. A rash? She said. From the car? Cinder gulped and neared her with a hesitant footsteps, holding her breath. She reached again for Peony's collar and pulled the fabric of her shirt down, revealing the entire spot in the moonlight. A splotch of red rimmed with bruised purple. Her fingers trembled. She pulled away, meeting Peony's gaze. Peony screamed. End of chapter 5.
Thank you everyone for joining me. Check back weekly for more read-alouds. We'll have new ones posted every week. And be sure to check out our website, sonomalibrary.org, for up-to-date resources and information. We miss you all. Stay safe. And remember, make reading a part of every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. And have fun with it.